Hello and welcome back to another episode of Injustice For All MMA. My name is David, and this episode is for UFC 304 Edwards versus Muhammad. This episode is obviously long overdue. It's probably a month now, and I've finally got to the card. A couple things that I want to rattle off before we get into the actual scorecards. Okay. A couple things just watching this card that were heavily on my mind. Okay. First things first. There should never be a UFC event where the people in the audience are watching and it's close to 6 a.m. That's absolutely ridiculous. Not for the fact that the fighters have to acquiesce to the time, because I don't think that really affected anything. Even though Leon Edwards at the end was complaining about time zone differences and things of that nature. I don't think that excuse really washes, but the reasoning is just how bored the crowd, just how dead the crowd was. I mean, they were so dead, even for their own fighters. Now, I remember an England card, I think a while back ago, and I'm assuming this time was at a much better time. These guys weren't, even when they were showing people in the crowd, they showed Wayne Rooney. No pop for Wayne Rooney. They showed Wayne. No pop for Wayne. Just moments of, there were some fights where they should have been really, really up, and they just weren't. It was a dead fucking crowd, and it's because of the timing of this event, really. The English bias just throughout the night, whether accidental or intentional, there was a heavy English bias. I'll give you an example. Let's start with Dan Movahedi, okay? Never liked him just because his voice and just the shape of his head. But Dan Movahedi, throughout the night, specifically the Duncan versus Rodrigues fight, where anytime they were on the ground or in the clinch, it was a constant, hey, you guys need to be active, hey, you guys need to be active, you guys need to be active, essentially threatening to take whatever position they had. He kind of reminds me of I don't know what he is, but the British version of Mark Smith. Mark Smith is very quick on the trigger if there is no action, right? And I think the one-time commentary did a good job tonight, was displaying how quick he was, because there were moments in the Rodrigues versus Duncan fight where, yes, there was a lack of ground and pound in certain aspects, but if you were watching, you could see that what Rodrigues was doing was he was setting up things. He was slowly progressing to different positions. And Movahedi, whether he was inept at understanding that or he was just bored, he didn't give too much of a shit on what was going on. So there was that. There were just a lot of I think DC mentioned it at the start of the broadcast, a lot of fence grabs. Some were fence grabs and some were just being posted. Anytime someone posted, they were screamed at for grabbing the fence, and anytime someone grabbed the fence, they just weren't admonished for grabbing the fence. It was so bad. It made me feel like that Brazil card that happened a while ago, where people were just doing terrible things and no one seemed to care. So there's that. Bisping on commentary. Now, if you've listened to me enough, you know that Bisping on commentary is the worst person in the world. Anik, I like, but tonight he was atrocious at points. Anik just can't seem to help when he wants to be from Boston. All right, let's just mention I'm from Boston. The Celtics won. That's annoying. That's just me being annoyed. But Bisping, not only was he bad tonight, he was actively rooting for people in commentary. Now, I get it. He's the British fighter. He's the British pioneer dude. So it makes sense to put him on British commentary. No. Let's have him actively root for fighters in the middle of fights. Let's actively root. Guys, I mean, I'm trying to remember the instance here, but I think Muhammad was going for a takedown, and he literally, I believe it was Muhammad, it's one of these fights, and he literally is whining in commentary. He's not going to get it. 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 He's rooting for them to the point where Anik has to just like move the conversation along. At the end of the title fight, he says you can make this. Okay, either he's fucking brain dead or he's a homer. He says you can argue the first round for Edwards. Now, at first I thought to myself, I just finished scoring this, and I thought, okay, he's fucking high. There's no way. The only rounds you can argue are 3 and 5, which we'll get to the scorecards in a second. But no, fuck that. He decides round 1 is the one I'm gonna hold. Is where I'm gonna hold my chips to. Just real quick before we get to anything, Edwards did not win round 1. He did not win round 1 by any stretch of the imagination. And yet he just continued to talk. It was just a bad night on commentary. Just a really bad night on commentary. Bisping is by far, pound for pound, the worst commentator on the planet. Is there anything else I can complain about? No. Let's just go to the first fight of the night. Let's go to the first fight of the night. Okay. Arguably the worst fight of the night. And it's Bannon versus Ardelean. Okay. I had this 30-27. This fight ended in a split decision. This fight was so bad it ended up being a split decision when naturally it should have been a 30-27. Let's go to the first round. Close on the... By the way, all throughout tonight, just wonky scorecards. Weird, wonky, like individual rounds of what... 30-27 to Bannon. First round, close on the feet. Ardelean had a takedown with little to no ground and pound. This first round really pissed me off because Ardelean had a takedown and proceeded to do nothing. She did absolutely nothing on top. Bannon was so active from the bottom that the only other option is to give her this round. But I just know how scoring works, so in my head I was thinking they might not get... This is women's MMA, so they might not give her that round. Okay, but I scored it for Bannon. You go to the second round. Ardelean had a takedown, again, with very little ground and pound, but she got outstruck on the feet and in the clinch by Bannon by about 15 plus strikes. That round belongs to Bannon. You go to the third round. Bannon outstruck Ardelean by 15 strikes on the feet. At the very... No, I'm not even saying at the very least 29-28. No, this is 30-27 by all metrics. You go to the judges' scorecards. And you just get wonkiness. Anders Olsen has it 29-28 to Bannon. Here's why the scorecard is shit. He gives the first round to Bannon, which it's correct. He gives the second round to Ardelean. Ardelean has a takedown with very little ground and pound. But she's out. But that takedown, very little time on the ground. Most of this round is on the feet and in the clinch, which Bannon completely outstruck Ardelean in. Okay, he gives the second round to Ardelean. Honorable mention, just weird. Then you go to Mark Collette. His scorecard is the only correct scorecard, really. It's 30-27 to Bannon, and then Daryl Ransom gives the first 2 rounds to Ardelean. Crazy. Absolutely crazy. An honorable mention of Ransom as well. Okay, let's go to the next. Honorable mention. Next honorable mention, and that's by the way, I'm going to be skipping a little bit here because I wrote down the wrong fights in order, so I'm probably going to be skipping a little bit here, but the next fight is Mokaev versus Kape. This fight was highly anticipated. It turned out to be a bit of a snoozer, and then also a bit controversial. Real quick, before I scored this fight, I didn't know who won, but I did know that Mokaev was cut, or not cut. What's the word? He didn't get renewed on his contract, and so in my head I was like, oh, maybe he lost. Maybe he lost. So I went to go watch the fight. I came to go watch the fight. Sorry, I'm burping here. Give me a moment. I came to watch the fight and I scored it. 30-27 to Mokaev. 30-27 to Mokaev. First round, Mokaev outstrikes Kape by about 4+ strikes. Okay? At the end of the round, the commentary is just, again, another bad commentary moment. They just don't seem to understand that Mokaev outstruck Kape, and instead, their first instinct always is to go to damage. And I understand that seems to be a big talking point, but that's not the point. The main point is there seems to go on like just hard damage, and that means you won. It's like, hold on, that's not how these fights go. Kape lands one heavy strike, and the commentary proceeds to blow him as though that's enough for him to win the round. DC even goes, the most damage in total was done by Mokaev. That's nonsense. Obviously, he got outstruck. Boom. Go to the second round. Mokaev outstruck Kape by about 2 strikes, and he had a takedown. This is 100% his round also. This is the round where I now understand why Mokaev got cut. He pulls down Kape's pants while grappling. And, well, there you have it. I think that's the reason why he probably got cut. Again, I still haven't seen any, I have not seeked out any explanation as to why he was cut. I saw like a small clip from Dana, but I didn't watch it fully. So I'll go look at that later. Third round, Mokaev outstruck Kape on the feet, and he had to take them with some ground and pound. But Kape was very active on the bottom, but Mokaev outstruck him by about 3+ strikes. And there you have it. That's where you get your 30-27. You go to the judges' scorecards. And Anders Olsen is the only one who has the correct scorecard. It's 30-27. Daryl Ransom, 29-28. Derek Cleary, 29-28. They gave the last round to Kape. Honorable mention. That's just incorrect, really. All right, you go to the next honorable mention. And that's Elliott versus Parsons. I had this 29-28 for Elliott. Last 2 rounds for Elliott. In the first round, Parsons outstruck Elliott by about 7 strikes. Real bad optics in that first round. Real bad optics for Parsons. He was outstriking him, but he was huffing and puffing, and he was getting walked down. That seems to be the theme of this card, is people who are getting walked down. There were certain fights where, despite getting outstruck, scorecards were somehow in their favor, even though they were getting walked down. I don't think I'm saying that properly. Let me just finish this. Real bad optics in this first round for Parsons. He was winning the round, but he's getting walked down the entire time. It was really, really bad optics. Second round, Elliott outstruck, and he had a takedown on Parsons. And he outstruck him by about 2+ strikes, but again, he was outstriking him pretty well, and he also had a takedown. In the third round, Parsons had a takedown, but he was outstruck by Elliott by about 7+ strikes. So that's where you get that on my scorecard. Go to the judges' scorecards, and this is where the optics come in. Derek Cleary and David Letheby have a 30-27 for Elliott. That first round just didn't look good. It did not look good for Parsons. Parsons 1,000% won this round, yet the optics just didn't look good. So I'm still giving an honorable mention. They shouldn't have scored it that way, but whatever. And then Mark Collette, his scorecard is correct. He gives the first round to Parsons and the last 2 rounds to Elliott. You go to the next honorable mention, and that's Bukauskas versus Prachnio. I had this first 2 rounds for Prachnio, close marker on the first round. You can argue the first round for Bukauskas if you want to, and then the fight ends in a submission in the 3rd round. You go to the first round. It's close on strikes with the edge to Prachnio. Prachnio's outstriking him. He's outstriking Bukauskas low-key, but it's just bad optics for Prachnio. Again, a weird optics fight where Prachnio's movement is just really, really gross. He's outstriking Bukauskas, but when Prachnio gets slightly touched, he's kind of jumping all over the place. Really, really bad optics for Prachnio. Prachnio was up on strikes, and then it starts to level down a little bit. So again, not good optics. But I think he won the round, but it's close. So you can argue for Bukauskas. 2nd round, Bukauskas had a takedown with some shots. Bukauskas dropped Prachnio, but then Prachnio rocked. Essentially a drop, but he stayed on his feet. He rocked. Prachnio rocked Bukauskas, and he outstruck him by a lot on the feet. That round 100% belongs to Prachnio. You go to the next. Oh, I'm sorry. Judges' scorecards. Like I said before, all 3 judges, they scored the first round. Ben Cartledge, Daryl Ransom, and Clemens Werner. Honorable mention, just straight up. They give the first round to Bukauskas. No. But I can't complain about it. I can't complain about it, really. Actually, no honorable mention for all 3 of them. I can't complain about it. It's close, so whatever. 2nd round is where we get into the he dropped him / he rocked him. If we're going to do this damage bullshit, all of it, guys, they both got rocked, and Prachnio outstruck him by a mile. Okay, Ben Cartledge and Clemens Werner, the only correct scorecards here. They give the 2nd round to Prachnio, and then Ransom gives the 2nd round to Bukauskas. Just looking at these scorecards tonight, a lot of it is some British glazing. A lot of it. And I know Bukauskas isn't from Britain, but you know what I'm saying. You go to the next honorable mention, straight up. Ransom gets the honorable mention. You go to the next honorable mention, and that's Hadley versus Loughran. Okay, if we can't agree on anything tonight, we can 100% agree that this is a 30-27 Hadley. It's a 30-27 Hadley, and that's what it should be. First round, Hadley outstruck Loughran by about 15 plus strikes. The 2nd round, Hadley outstruck Loughran by about 16 plus strikes. Loughran had a takedown, but did nothing with it, really. And then in the 3rd round, Hadley outstruck Loughran by 18 strikes. 30-27. Pretty fucking simple. And if you go to the judges' scorecards, someone doesn't agree. Mark Collette and David Letterby, their scorecards are correct, 30-27 for Hadley. And then Derek Cleary just wants to be different. Honorable mention there. He gives the 2nd round to Loughran. I'm assuming the takedown is what superseded getting outstruck by 16 strikes. Honorable mention to Derek Cleary. It's just a ridiculous scorecard. Again, Hadley outstruck Loughran clear. Loughran had a takedown, but did essentially nothing with it. So there's that. We go to the next honorable mention, and this one is kind of interesting. I had this. This was Wood versus Pineda. I had this 28-28. 28-28. Close marker on the first round. I give the first round to Pineda. This is very, very interesting. First round I gave to Pineda 10-9. Second round I gave to Wood 10-8. And the last round you give to Pineda, obviously 10-9. Let's start with the first round. In the first round, Wood drops Pineda with a body kick. And this is the theme of this fight, is Wood could have finished Pineda. Again, another shining moment from commentary. where essentially they just highlight how terrible Wood's fight IQ was. Wood should not have grappled with him at all, yet proceeded to, and that's what possibly could have changed this fight. If, obviously, my scorecard didn't matter, but it could have changed this fight entirely. In the first round, he drops Pineda with a body kick, proceeds to get on top of him, and land almost little to no ground and pound. I want to say almost no ground. He kind of just stays on him, to the point where Bisping, occasionally he's correct, goes, hey, Wood isn't really doing anything on top. Cool. Pineda gets a reversal, and essentially Pineda gets a reversal. Not only outstrikes Wood with ground and pound, but lands very heavy strikes on top. I mean, you can make an argument here for Pineda, and while I put a close marker and I wanted to just write Wood, if you watch the fight over and over, you can see a lean towards Pineda. Obviously, we're in Britain. There's no way you're getting that. I think if this was scored in the U.S., I think at least a couple judges give this to Pineda. But that's regardless of the point. I put a close marker just to be objective. You go to the second round. Second round is the coolest round. Wood drops Pineda 3 times. He drops him 3 individual times. He drops him twice with his hands and 1 with a body kick. It was an amazing round. And he outstruck Pineda as well. 25 plus strikes. Amazing. Okay, possible 10-8. It's definitely a 10-8. Then you go to the third round. Wood has a reversal. But Pineda has ground and pound for 3 whole minutes. This round belongs to Pineda, and this fight could have been a 28-28, but it wasn't. It definitely wasn't. You go to the judges' scorecards. David Letheby, he has a 29-27. Okay. First 2 rounds for Wood. He gives Wood the 10-8. Last round for Pineda. Daryl Ransom, his scorecard reflects David Letheby. And then Clemens Werner, first 2 rounds to Wood, last round to Pineda. He just doesn't decide to give a 10-8. I'm not going to honorable mention him for not giving a 10-8, but come on. He dropped him 3 times. If that's not a 10-8, I don't know what is. He dropped him 3 individual times and he outstruck him by 25 plus strikes. Come on. Then you go to the next honorable mention, and this is honorable mention. In another universe, it should be an Injustice. But again, optics just weren't in Chikadze's favor. I had this 29-28 Chikadze, first 2 rounds to Chikadze, last round to Allen. Chikadze should have won this fight, but again, the optics just weren't in Chikadze's favor. Really, Chikadze should have won this fight. But they're in Britain, and again, the optics just weren't in Chikadze's favor. You go to the first round. Chikadze outstruck Allen by about 6 strikes. Okay. Second round, he outstrikes him by 2 strikes. Now, he outstrikes him by 2 strikes, and we've seen many rounds where people win. They outstruck him by very few, and people win the round. But the noticeable thing in this round 2 is, just like in not just like in round 1, in round 2, Allen's doing a lot better with his striking. He's pushing the pace. Chikadze's going backwards, and he's huffing and puffing, bleeding. Not a good look, despite him winning the striking total. It's just not a good look. I gave it to Chikadze because that's what I'm going to do. He outstruck him, and yet he loses. He definitely lost it on the judges' scorecards. You go to the round 3 where Allen just outstruck Chikadze by about 12 strikes. If this were a 5-round fight, Allen wins probably 48-47. 48-47, 49-46 most likely. You go to the judges' scorecards, and all three of them have it the same way. 29-28 to Allen, the last two rounds for Allen. Ben Cartledge, Mark Collette, and Anders Olsen. You go to the next honorable mention, and this is the Dan Movahedi masterclass, where he decides, hey, Rodrigues, if you're not punching, if you're not like subbing as soon as I clap my hands, I'm going to stand you up, to the point where they just got into a clinch position, and he moves them. He stops them. Just ridiculous stuff. This is 30-20. This is Duncan versus Rodrigues. 30-27 to Rodrigues. If you have anything other than a 30-27, throw away your scorecard. Throw it away. It's a 30-27 to Rodrigues, and all three judges have it the same way. I don't know why I'm whining. I think I would just put this down to highlight how ridiculous the ref was. So yeah, we can just skip over that one, and then we go to the main one. We go to probably the most interesting one. It's Edwards versus Muhammad. Edwards versus Muhammad. I had this 49-46. Okay, first two rounds for Muhammad, last two rounds for Muhammad. If you're Michael Bisping, or John Anik, the fifth round belongs to Edwards because, you cut him or whatever. You cut him. Same thing Anik did back in Brazil with Pantoja and Usyk. Usyk cut him, so therefore he wins the round. No, that's not how that works. Two judges on here thought that's how it works, but again, British bias, whatever. Yeah, see, you can't really stand on anything. In Brazil, the cut doesn't matter. In England, the cut matters. Don't get me started. If you're Anik and Bisping, the fifth round goes to Edwards. If you're Bisping, the first round goes to Edwards. He should just be jettisoned into the sun. That makes no fucking sense. But let's go to the low key, the correct scorecard. 49-46 Muhammad. First two rounds to Muhammad is what I have. Last two rounds to Muhammad. The third round is the only round, objectively, that goes to Edwards. Okay, you start off with the first round. And it's fairly even on the feet, fairly even on strikes on the feet. But Muhammad has two takedowns with some ground and pound. They gave him 4 takedowns. That's fucking nonsense. It's 2 straight takedowns. Okay, 2 takedowns. With some ground and pound. Ridiculous that they gave him 4 takedowns. But no, I'm sorry. That's the second round they gave him 4 takedowns. I think it's the second round they gave him 4 takedowns. But even still, that's ridiculous. 2 takedowns with some ground and pound in the first round. Second round, Edwards had a takedown, but Muhammad has 2 takedowns with some ground and pound, and he outstruck Edwards on the feet by about 6+ strikes. This fight, the way this fight went, kind of reminded me of Mokaev versus Poirier, except Edwards looked nothing like Poirier in terms of the striking. You go to the third round, Muhammad had a takedown, but Edwards had a takedown with some ground and pound for about 3+ minutes. This was his best round. And then you go to the fourth round, where Edwards had a reversal with some ground and pound, but Muhammad had a takedown with ground and pound for 3 minutes, and he outstruck Edwards on the feet by about 6 strikes. You go to the fifth round. This is the goofy round, where Muhammad has a takedown with ground and pound for 3 minutes. He has a takedown with ground and pound for 3 whole minutes. On the feet before the takedown, he's outstriking Edwards by about 10 strikes. Then in the last 40 seconds, Edwards gets a reversal, lands 5 elbows to the head. One of them cuts him. One of them cuts Muhammad. And then we have to hear for the rest of the night how this might be the round that was stolen. It shouldn't be. I'm not even going to put a close mark on it. Objectively speaking, this isn't enough to win him the round. But 2 judges thought so, whatever. And that's where you have it. And then Bisping proceeds to just clamor about this and that and this and that and this and that. We go to the judges' scorecards. Clemens Werner, his scorecard reflects mine. It's 49 It's 49-46. 49-46. I'm looking at these scorecards for the first time and I'm about to blow a gasket. It's 49-46. His scorecard reflects mine. This is the correct scorecard. Derek Cleary gives the first round to Leon Edwards. I'm about to blow a fucking... Someone make it make sense. You know, when they're saying it live and they're going 49-46, 48-47, 48-47, you're probably thinking, okay, third round, fifth round, 2 judges. No. He gave the first round to Edwards. I don't know how you watch the first round and you think Leon Edwards won the first round. I don't know where you think that. This is a very bad scorecard, honorable mention. It's a terrible scorecard. He then gives the third round to Leon Edwards, that's fine, and then he gives the fifth round to Belal Muhammad. So that's 2 judges now who are on the same page of like, this cut was irrelevant. He was dominating him for literally 4 minutes. This cut that you guys are screaming about is irrelevant. Cool. Derek Cleary gives the first round to Leon Edwards. So Bisping may have had a point, but I think that's because he has one eye, and maybe Derek Cleary also has one eye too, because that's not what happened. That's ridiculous. Then you go to another honorable mention. Ben Cartlidge, he gives the last round to Edwards. Honorable mention. Just ridiculous. And then he gives the third round to Edwards as well. So that's all you have. You just have a night full of wonky scorecards, an overzealous ref. I would have rather had Rich Mitchell tonight instead of Dan Movahedi. Rich Mitchell's voice is just annoying, but he's not a dunderhead like Movahedi. Whatever. Tonight was just weird, wonky. Paddy Pimblett won, that's great. Tom Aspinall won, that's even more great. And then we just had stupid scorecards and we have a new champion. So, there you have it. Thank you all for listening, and God bless.